Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to another edition of Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com. Get all your healthcare needs taken care of by Chad and his great team. And he brings us this fascinating and fun and always put a smile on my face football discussion each and every Monday, occasionally Tuesday, but the Chiefs are on kind of a regular schedule now. They'll have the bye week this week, so we will definitely be back on a Monday next week. And the Chiefs once again rescue the weekend as Missouri didn't play. Kansas and Kansas State lost, so it's been a while since the local college team has posted a W. So the Chiefs are providing the smiles as usual, as I mentioned, and all of that will be part of the mix as usual on a great edition of Danny and Stan's Football Weekend. As part of the Reasonably Irreverent podcast, we're talking football, as I mentioned, each and every week, and we start doing it for real, coming up next with Stan Weber right here. It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's become a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com and let Chad help you. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here, upwards of 2 years. My back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson and Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think yesterday was another example, Stan, of just how difficult it is to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe particularly at home. There is some atmosphere in that stadium now, even though they have the 25% of capacity. But the Chiefs did a lot of things wrong yesterday, and it was a difficult day to play with the wind and such. But the defense wasn't very good. Special teams didn't really contribute much. Another missed extra point. But Patrick Mahomes was there, and we were just joking before. Maybe with any other quarterback in the NFL, maybe with any other tight end in the NFL, maybe with any other lead wide receiver in the NFL, the Chiefs lose yesterday.
It's amazing. You post up another W when I think Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers played the script as well as you possibly can. Now, Christian McCaffrey is a difference maker that a lot of teams don't have, but otherwise on that team, they're just another solid, middle-of-the-road NFL team. Nothing about them stands out other than Christian McCaffrey. So there are ways to skin the cat. They just executed and had a plan that was very well done, played awesome throughout the whole game, and lost. It just is amazing how good the Chiefs are.
You just can't lapse. I mean, and they had a little bit of a lapse in the third quarter. The Chiefs kind of dominated the third quarter, and so they played 45 to 50 minutes of good football, and even when the Chiefs are playing maybe a B-minus game, you need close to 60 minutes.
Yes, you do, and even then, it might not be enough. I think back to the Super Bowl. The Niners didn't do that much wrong. I mean, when you're yelling and screaming at the 49ers as a fan going, how can that possibly be? Well, I think it was a pass that Chris Jones knocked down and a ball that was overthrown down the middle on a deep post by one or two steps, and everyone's throwing their arms up going, how can Garoppolo not hit that receiver downfield 40 yards in stride? Well, if you watch all the NFL games, only Aaron Rodgers drops the ball in perfectly, or Patrick Mahomes. You miss guys barely, but they make you play so perfectly to have a chance to win. And here was another example. They got the ball in the last 2 minutes and needed a field goal try, and he didn't come that close. The Chiefs, again, put the heat on them, brought the blitz, made them make plays. If they would have made the plays, they would have won the game. But the Chiefs aren't going to allow you to have anything easy. And with Patrick Mahomes sitting over there on the sideline, every time the Chiefs trot out on the field, why the Chiefs aren't scoring on that possession, we all shake our heads. Everyone who's watching on television around the country and who, everyone loves watching the Chiefs, you're thinking they're going to score this drive. Every time they don't, you're wondering what the heck. And how about the last possession? Even Carolina stuffs them out, 3 and out, forces a punt. You don't expect that to happen. So I thought this game was really about the Carolina Panthers laying out a script that the Tennessee Titans kind of believe in and give themselves a chance against the Chiefs. And even then, you got to hold your breath and say, we've moved our chances from winning from about 10% to 50-50 because nothing that Patrick Mahomes did on Sunday was that extraordinary. It was extraordinary how good he is, but by his standards, you don't go, oh, that was lucky. Did you see that ball bounce over 2 people? Then Tyreek caught it and ran 40 yards the rest of the way for a touchdown. No, there was no luck involved. It was just execution by the Chiefs. So just, man, the Kansas City Chiefs are really, really good.
Well, and Carolina has a way of playing football that is really works into the weakness of the Chiefs' defense, which is guarding tight ends and running backs in the pass game. I mean, they didn't really go down the field very much in the pass game. Bridgewater completed most of his passes, but most of his passes were intermediate with the tight end and a lot to McCaffrey, who had over 150 yards total offense. So there's not that many people who have that kind of perfect fit against what is generally the Chiefs' weakness, or one of the two, stopping the run, which they didn't do for a while, but then did a little bit as the game went on, and also protecting that short passing game against running backs and tight ends.
And having to answer against an aggressive blitzing style defense on third down. I mean, that's what Carolina did, is they made it look fairly simple. It was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5. Well, if you're going to beat the Chiefs, it isn't about getting a touchdown at that point. It's keeping the drive alive. And they made it look easy with good wide receivers, nice little throws over the middle. Christian McCaffrey's always a super wild card out there. But we went into the game talking about Tyrann Mathieu. I did, saying how much fun it is because Christian McCaffrey's a Swiss Army knife type of offensive player for the Panthers. And then how do you offset that? How can you have any chance against this guy? Oh, Tyrann Mathieu.
Except maybe the Chiefs made they used Daniel Sorensen a little bit more.
They're believing in him more and more. I mean,
right.
He's playing less linebacker and more safety, and he's been a sure tackler. But yeah, he's been put in that situation. You're not going to have Tyrann Mathieu chase him around. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I thought about that when you saw the touchdown. I'm not sure that Tyrann Mathieu was supposed to be responsible for Christian McCaffrey, or if it was someone else on the other side of the field. He just hustled over and tried to make a play. But like that, they had fourth down plays that would work. They had a fourth down fake punt that not only kind of worked, they read the Chiefs' aggressiveness perfectly. I mean, the Chiefs thought they blocked the punt. I mean, there were so many guys back there thinking they blocked the punt that there were two wide receivers, two guys open right down the middle, plus the two gunners outside. Carolina has a nice way of playing 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5 football. And that's how you beat the Chiefs, or have a chance to beat the Chiefs, is executing those situations and score touchdowns when you get in the red zone. So Carolina used their skill level. They coached their team up in a way that it was a perfect blueprint. If I'm a team thinking about beating the Chiefs later, I just take this blueprint and go, don't tell me it didn't work and we lost. Don't tell me Carolina lost. We're going to use this blueprint. But it's so hard to stick to it. It's so hard to find players like Christian McCaffrey or Bridgewater even to stay under a calm pocket presence and throw the ball accurately. Carolina just gets an A+. I mean, what a game. They really played a strategic game, well executed. The first drive was poetry in motion. They took all day to go down the field and scored a touchdown. But still, right before the half, they were about ready to get double whacked by the score before the half by the Chiefs and then come out in the second half. The Chiefs did not really tear the game apart right at that point, but I was just chuckling going, Carolina did everything perfect, and they're about ready to be 2 scores behind early in the third quarter. Didn't happen that way, but credit Carolina all the way. It was an amazing performance. And I guess we got to credit the Chiefs because, to me, it's not as much credit as I know they're this good, but as a fan, you got to say that was the weekend where that second loss was going to occur. We say there's probably going to be a loss somewhere, and you say this was the day that someone could have snuck in and beat the Chiefs, and it didn't happen.
Right before the bye, we talked about that mindset. Did you feel like the Chiefs looked a little flat?
No, not at all.
Okay.
They're not playing with a sense of urgency like back to the wall, let me show you. For instance, the New Orleans Saints on Sunday night played at a high level. We don't see NFL teams do that often. They don't push that button. They always play at a pretty high level. But they do it with a calmness. Most of the players, when you see them warming up before a game, they show them out in their shorts and doing things on the pregame shows. Danny, they're not nervous. The pros aren't nervous. There's an energy about them, but not like the old days where you got all fired up and could smash your head into a wall,
get
sick, wouldn't hurt, or go throw up.
Right,
got to throw up before every game. There's a few famous guys who've done that. Right. I don't think that's the way they play. They know how to get to a high level. And again, credit to them. They don't hit much in practice. They don't get exposed to much real football. This year they didn't have preseason, and it didn't matter. It mattered at the college level, I think, but it didn't matter in the pros. Point is that even though you think that way, sometimes you just can't help yourself from rising to the next level. What pushed your buttons? Like the Ravens pushed the Chiefs' buttons. And they said, oh, you think you're the best team in football. You have the MVP from last year's regular season, and we got a big Monday night game. Let's just see what happens. Well, I thought the Saints did that yesterday. Mm-hmm. So I think this is not a less than normal mindset by the Chiefs at all. They're not slipping into an overconfidence. They just played a game like an NFL game. They were fine. What errors did they make? Oh, they missed a field goal and they missed a PAT. What else did they do wrong?
No turnovers.
Yeah, they just played their game. So I thought Carolina had a great focus to try to pull off the upset, and the Chiefs were matched it with an NFL performance. But I think if you look at the Saints and say what they did, that's in the Chiefs. And by the way, Danny, the schedule's looking differently than we thought before. Okay, just to point this out, I've said I thought the Chiefs would lose one more time. Okay, just because they're good, and usually you do lose 2 games in a regular season. But we've talked about the Chiefs working through the toughest part of their schedule, and then we got to a lull, and I think that's kind of what we've been through. And then the latter part of the season, we haven't talked a lot about it, but now when you look at it, there are legitimate foes on the road in all 4 of the Chiefs' remaining road games. Think about this. Raiders, they're going to be fired up. That's a Sunday night game, I believe. They're going to be fired up to play the Chiefs, division rival. Buccaneers, you can look awful one game and you can look great the next. They are all over the board, so you don't know what version of the Bucs you're going to get. At Miami, that's a good defensive team. Feisty. Made this quarterback switch that I didn't think was necessarily the time to do it and have survived it. Now done some things like beat the Rams and went and won against the Cardinals on the road in a tough environment, and then the Saints. So those are the Chiefs' 4 remaining road games: Raiders, Buccaneers, Dolphins, Saints. There's going to be some more competition down the road, but it's nice that they didn't stub their toe against a team that would have been unacceptable. If we'd have lost to Carolina, you'd have said, what the heck? How many times? That usually happens once a year, right? You go back and go, how did the Chiefs lose to that team during the season? They got through it this time just because Patrick Mahomes is hitting on all cylinders, and Travis Kelce, he looks like he is wide open on every play. I know he's not, but again, coaching, the flexibility of Coach Reed to say, guys, you don't have to run the route exactly like I draw it up. Run it how it works. And those 2 guys are like telepathic with each other. Patrick throws it, and Kelce ends up there. I bet it's awful for the defensive coordinators to go, okay, we're drawing up this route, and then it doesn't work like you read routes. Like you see this guy cross and this guy do this, and everyone knows, oh, that's their, this is their X combination, and here's their Y combination. And Travis Kelce just blows up all those indicators and does something and runs to the open area. And Patrick's not thrown off. It's hard to stop it for a lot of reasons, but that's just another added one.
Let's check in with our weekly Los Angeles Charger misery index. They lost again on the last play of the game. Actually, the last 2 plays they had a chance to win. I can't even imagine what it must be like to play on a team that every single week loses right at the end.
Haven't won a division game in forever. Wow. And it's just new ways every time. Phillip Rivers must be sitting there going, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't all me. This one, they had a touchdown. If you haven't seen it, they scored a made a nice drive, kind of an unexpected movement down the field, got inside the 10, threw a fade route, looked like they might have a touchdown, can't quite hold on to it, darn it. And on the next play, they do it again with a different player, and he catches it. They give him a touchdown. They beat the Raiders. The Raiders are in complete shock. I mean, what a punch in the gut. This is a game that they looked like they were going to win for the whole fourth quarter. And now the Chargers are going to win, except for they go to replay and overturn it. I guess the ball moved right at the end when he rolled out of the end zone or something, and they wipe it out. No time left on the clock. It's you go to the replay for a winner and a loser.
Wow.
And it goes against the Chargers again.
And I mean, Anthony Lynn's going to get. I mean, he's going to get fired. And
you think?
I mean, he's going to. Well, maybe he won't. Maybe they'll be sensible and say, "Hey, we've got a young quarterback. We were snake bit. That'll all turn around. It'll all balance." But they've just made an art form of losing close games.
Yeah, you hope that he gets a little COVID freedom, like we keep saying.
Yeah, maybe.
You and I have talked about this, that there's going to be a little less of that than maybe people think, because these big-time organizations need to win. But maybe he'll get a little bit of a break there. They do have a ton of injuries. They have a new quarterback. I mean, we can make a case for Anthony Lynn, but you can also make a case that this guy's the worst luck in the world. We got to get rid of him. I don't know. Are the owners superstitious?
Yeah, I don't know.
They need to tell him to wear a different face mask or something. Don't wear the plastic Andy Reid face mask anymore. I could not believe it again.
Right. Well, hopefully, maybe we won't be talking about the Chargers again, because maybe they'll just win an ordinary football game and everything will be well, or lose. But it looked like they were going to lose an ordinary football game yesterday.
Yeah, it was more devastating that they made a great drive.
Right.
It just would have been better if they had thrown 3 incompletions or 4 down at the other end. You go, hey, the Raiders, nice game, wasn't our day. Wow.
Yeah,
they end up losing that thing, but that does keep the Raiders in, so-called striking distance. If they can put together another great game and beat the Chiefs head-to-head, a win is worth a lot to the Raiders because they pull within 1 of the Chiefs if they do that, and they have the tiebreaker
right?
Which really means they could dream about passing him up. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Chiefs are really good, but poor Chargers. Wow.
And that game.
We should start calling the San Diego Chargers. They deserve to lose because they're in Los Angeles.
That game for the Raiders really sort of stands out as one where the Chiefs maybe do a Ravens game, do a Buccaneers game from last night for the Saints. That has the earmarks of that game, but we'll have to wait and see when it plays out. A couple losses again for the Kansas teams who are in action. We'll talk about college football coming up next with Stan Weber on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from WreckExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit WreckExpert.com and learn more.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. Whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support, and thank you for continuing to shop local.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And, Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlite 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new Smart Laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkScale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Back with Stan, we've talked about some gut punches over the first segment, so over the last few weeks, and certainly Kansas State got one in Manhattan on Saturday, a game they heavily outgained their opponent. Saw Oklahoma State rally, completely dominated the first half, just shutting down totally in offense, and then also having some things to second guess after the game, chasing points in the second quarter. So a lot of topics on the table for K-State, but again, they showed some grit. They got behind. They gave up a devastating fumble return that just popped up in the air and bounced back from that, but then, made another mistake. There was a lot going on in this game to digest.
Really was. And I guess you got to start with the real bold headline is that after the West Virginia game, with the West Virginia defense being as good as it is, and with Will Howard, quarterback, being a freshman, and then Briley Moore, the second-best weapon at tight end, being out for much of the West Virginia game, you say, hey, all you got is Deuce Vaughn. They're going to put 3 guys around him, treat him like he's Christian McCaffrey, and will K-State have an answer? And they also gave up points. It's only the second time Chris Klieman in his 2 years lost by double digits at West Virginia. The first time he lost by 20 points or more. So do you see a trend here? That was a legitimate question to ask as K-State went and played a better team and a better defense in Mike Gundy's Oklahoma State. So if you go back and think of those thoughts, Danny, we got to think of worst-case scenario and best-case scenario and start with the worst. What happens if Oklahoma State would have stuffed the Wildcats, taken control of the game, and just separated and won by 15 or 20 points? Then you could be concerned. So I think really the good news is K-State was toe-to-toe with Oklahoma State. And like you said, being fair, if you just watch the tape, like I do from a football perspective sometimes, or a lot, K-State was the better team. But Oklahoma State found a way to win. Credit them for finding a way to win. K-State is going to look in the mirror and say, what about this, what about that? But I guess we got to start with, Danny, I'm impressed with the questions you might have come out of the West Virginia game with are gone. Again, you think of K-State as a team that is competitive with the upper-level teams in the conference. Before we leave the positiveness, okay, it's interesting. Oklahoma State, I've always said, is going to be one of the 2 teams in the Big 12 championship game. They may not make it, but they are my most likely team. K-State has a chance before them to be that other team, and you kind of shake your head and say, really? With as good as Oklahoma is? Well, K-State has a tiebreaker over them.
Right.
Texas has 2 losses. Iowa State has 1, but the next game K-State plays is Iowa State. What happens if K-State plays Iowa State and wins, which they've done 10 of the last 11 times they played them? If K-State were able to go on the road and win that game, they also play Baylor on the road and Texas at home. You could take care of Iowa State and Baylor yourself. You have a tiebreaker over OU. I mean, you can make a case that Oklahoma State beats OU for you, and you come out even with a loss to Baylor, for instance. So K-State really has a lot more to play for right now, but, man, they would have been in 7th heaven if they would have won the game against Oklahoma State. They'd be sitting there right now with Iowa State with a 1-loss Big 12 record. It didn't happen. It ended up being a very close game like a lot of them are, and this time K-State came up on the wrong end of it.
Chasing points is always an interesting thing, and I think 15 years ago, Chris Klieman, frankly, I don't even know if he probably would have kicked 15 years ago, but there's analytics now on the side of going for 2 points a lot. And I think it's just not that simple. I said it in real time, so I think they should have kicked. I mean, I think 13 is a lot better than 12. The game looked like one in which K-State's defense was going to hold Oklahoma State to field goals, which happened. I think there's a psychological aspect right near the half of momentum. So I think he made a mistake, but in this day and age, there's so many different ways to look at it with the 2 points. But I guess what keeps coming back to me is the fact that evening up the score at a magic 14, I think that still is in the heads of football people, that we're supposed to be at 14. No, you're not. You kicked 2 field goals. This wasn't like they missed an extra point, and that would be inexcusable too, to me. But you're not there's no God-given reason you should be at 14. So just take your 13 and be happy. But I'm not going to criticize them too heavily because there are a lot of arguments on the other side now that make sense numerically.
For instance, what you're saying, to emphasize the point you just made in there, when the Chiefs scored to get 12 points and the Panthers already had 14, you could see that a lot of people would say it's well worth going and getting this game tied because now 14 is a very known number.
Right.
And Kansas City decided in the NFL game to kick a PAT and say, we got a lot of game left. It's not going to be a low-scoring battle. Let's just, accumulate our points. And the Chiefs didn't go for 2. When K-State decided to go for 2 right before the half, they were going against an unknown, right? Okay.
Right.
So anybody who says,
for anybody who doesn't know, it was 12 to nothing.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State had basically punted almost 3 and out every time throughout the first half. So It appeared to be a low-scoring game. So anybody who says before in real time, kick the PAT, don't chase points at that time, then they could definitely stand on their soapbox and go, hey, I remember the way it was 15 years ago, and it wasn't that bad 15 years ago, and so forth and so on. It became real because K-State lost by 2, 20-18. They went for 2 points later and missed. If they would have made the second one, then that analytics side would have been exactly right. Doesn't matter. You're going to make 50% of them. We made 50%. Who cares when we score them? I do think you pointed out one thing, though, that the football coach, not just the analytics people, because this is a wide-ranging subject with no perfect answer in my mind. Therefore, not a lot of criticism,
right?
No matter how you play it out. I can't sit there and spend much time criticizing it because you said something that's very valuable. It's just a psychological thing to get to 14. But how much emotion would that psychological benefit be to punch Oklahoma State in the mouth and say, you're down 14-0. You didn't give up 2 touchdowns. You gave up 1 long run to Will Howard of 69 yards. Otherwise, your defense has been fine. You're really good. And you look at the scoreboard, and they lead 14-0. So what psychological benefit was it? That's what you're shooting for when you go for the 2 points.
And they had the play. I mean, to be fair, they had the play.
Yeah, and that's the last thing. K-State generically, this is a generic statement overall. For those that want to play it in a traditional fashion, I don't think K-State's the most reliable team to make 2 yards in a tight situation like that with Will Howard at quarterback right now. They don't have a ton of options and a ton of plays to run. So K-State's not the best 2-point conversion team in the world. For instance, they were first and goal at the 2 against West Virginia in a 0-0 game and didn't score. You settled for a field goal because they got knocked back 2 yards. So those are like 2-point conversion plays. But this time they had a play. And one of the questions I would ask if you go for 2 is, are you a team that's likely to make 2 points? Chiefs, yes. Okay. But then do you have a play against this team that you think might work? You study all week to come to this answer. And K-State believed, and they showed they had to play. So I think that may have been the tiebreaker right there, that they had the play, and it just didn't get executed by, 2 inches? The ball ended up being maybe high by 2 inches, or he would have caught the ball in the end zone. But I don't have a lot of criticism. Oh, it's a punch in the gut when you are watching a game and you lose by 2 because you missed 2 2-point conversions. There's no doubt about that. But I don't believe in the old call out the coach after the game if it did not work. Because if it had worked and it was 14-0 and Oklahoma State scored 2 touchdowns, it didn't win 14-13, but it was tied, no one would remember that. We just want to criticize the coaches. So I think we've done a good job of analyzing this. Sitting in my chair, I am indifferent as can be because I trust a lot of things about the analytics. I trust a lot of things about the psychological factor. But, man, I totally respect the old school way of doing it as well. I'm right in the middle. My pendulum has not swung from old school to new. I'm still sitting there right in the middle, and I think you described that well also.
Right, and Chris Kleiman felt like he had a play, and he did, and they just didn't execute it. And, football is a game of execution and decision-making. And the other point, I guess, is at the end of the game, Will Howard had probably an easier, all they just needed a field goal, and talk about a gut punch. It's such a deflating thing to have a drive in front of you, and the first play you throw an interception, and he was going for more of a chunk play, which in my mind is kind of a freshman mistake.
Yeah, now this gets really into a lot of thought process of what are the coaches telling you. Do you want to throw to guys and be indifferent of who you're throwing to? Patrick Mahomes has made a unbelievable career out of saying, I don't care if it's Patrick, I don't care if it's Tyreek Hill or Byron Pringle. If that's my go-to guy, I'm going to stick the ball on him and believe him. Then there are other guys who say, I am not going down without throwing to my best guy. Both theories have worked, right? I mean, we've seen it throughout history, Danny. This is one where when he threw the route up the seam, he ended up throwing it near double coverage, overthrew it, and it ends up being an interception. But he was throwing it to a guy who really hasn't played all year, who really gets his first action because Briley Moore was injured and then other things happening. He really has hardly played all year. Now, do you treat him like, hey, in practice, he's fine, let's go, that's the route to throw, or do you say, I'm going to throw to my most reliable guy? Again, I don't know what they teach him. It's very important. Like, what do they want him to do? in the end, it is disappointing that the first play ends up being an interception, because just as a neutral fan, this game was sizing up to being a great game to watch. That 3 o'clock window, Notre Dame and Clemson getting ready to kick off, the nation saying, look at this K-State team fighting like crazy. What's going to happen on this drive? It's a windy day. Can you make a field goal? College kicker's not as reliable as the NFL was. It would have been fun for all. And then suddenly it was fun for only Oklahoma State fans because the free safety picks it off.
K-State, so you figure the mindset pretty good at the bye here.
Yes, I think that they've done a good job under Chris Kleiman of getting the kids to a neutrality in mentality. K-State's players don't get very high or low. They really are kind of grinding day by day. So I think it's the same mode, which was very good after the West Virginia game. I know that there are a lot of K-State fans just felt like they just got run over by a car or something. You know, we may not be fatally injured, but man, we're bruised up, and like the old Flintstones show or something, not real life wrecks, but you know, it's just we didn't move the ball at all, and West Virginia's defense is so good, but Oklahoma State's is better. You know, how do you get some enthusiasm? Right. So the players didn't buy into that at all. They just got back to work and went out and played. I just wish they would have been rewarded. Not that they would have been higher today than lower. I think they're probably going to have the same mentality. But, you know, getting a close win, giving confirmation about fighting with a freshman quarterback, and you can do it when you're down. Hey, Skylar Thompson didn't play. Briley Moore, their second-best weapon, wasn't out there. And still they made some big plays and had some things go their way. Deuce Vaughn wasn't the dominant player down after down or even a 50-yard play. It was really a team effort by K-State, toe-to-toe with Oklahoma State. Very impressive. But winning always matters. Even though K-State's a pretty neutral-minded team, I'm not worried about them. Winning's still a nice confirmation. And now you've gone 2 losses and a week off. It is not best to be going to Ames, Iowa, not having won in a long time.
Kansas, there's nothing we didn't expect. The game was a routine blasting. It took
they stayed till halftime.
Took a little bit of time for Oklahoma to get going, but they scored a touchdown most of the time. Threw one pick that didn't. But I guess the question coming out of it is Les Miles said a lot of good things about his team. They were missing a lot of players. The whole post-game tenor was, I think, to try and have his team just not pack it in for the rest of the season. But one player I have to say you got to be concerned about to me is Jalen Daniels. 11 for 31, a couple of interceptions, and sacked 9 times. It's the kind of game that can start to undercut your confidence and hurt your development. That's a big job right now for the Kansas coaches, I think, with the guy that is their future at the quarterback position.
It's definitely a big job. Development does matter. I know a lot about agriculture, but I don't know enough about the actual dirt when you see it, when you plant a seed and you help it grow and you nurture it and you fertilize it and all those things, because I don't garden or I don't have nice flowers around my house,
right.
Danny. Real life activity where you see maybe your school has a project and your kid is involved in planting that little plant and watching it grow. I remember when they made me do that in 3rd grade. I said, I can't wait till I grow up and don't have to do this crap. But if you know what I'm talking about,
yes.
If you're into that, you just it has to be nurtured, Danny. You cannot be violent with the little plant. Even if it's going to be a pretty big, solid whatever you're growing, but when it's young, you can't just beat it around and hope you don't break it. So yes, this is real. He is a good player to lean on and think about in the future. But number one is you don't ever hope they accept losing. That's what happens at losing programs I'm not saying him, but what happens is you get used to losing and you do not want to be so mad at yourself that you don't function at being a friend, family member, boyfriend,
right.
Whatever, all those other aspects of life as a student. You don't want to be a curmudgeon and a jerk around campus because we lost. You can't do that. You have to live with yourself and see the positive. But at some point, how you see positive, Danny? You lower your expectations. So Jalen Daniels can come in and say, we're going to win, and then by the time he starts next year, if they don't get some wins, go, well, I'm going to try my best and see what happens, and suddenly you're just accepting things. So all these things are in play. He's getting physically banged around and beat up as well. Threw another interception where he rolled one way and threw it back the other. He got housed against K-State. Again, Oklahoma got a free run. Somehow they scrambled over and knocked him out of bounds. So, yes, the development for Jalen Daniels is a giant question right now, to answer your question, and I don't know where it's going to go. They've got some opportunities to compete, but what is the thing that we're teaching the analytics people? The fans are so knowledgeable about how you win football games. And it used to be Dick Vermeil was the only one who said, we got to win that turnover battle. And the fans like, yeah, whatever. But now we all know to say, protect the football, right? Mm-hmm. You got to protect the football. So he's running around wild and crazy because he has to be chased, running over 3 guys to gain 7 yards. I mean, you got to love the effort, but he's going to have to step his game up and go very clean. Don't turn the ball over. Take the easy throw. Scramble like Alex Smith scrambles.
Yeah,
Scramble like Patrick Mahomes.
See, Will Howard, same thing. He's turned the ball over a lot the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. So when you clean those aspects up with the guys, that's a must to get over the hump, right? So right now it's such a complicated equation that there's no one thing you say, here's what's the most important thing is development. I don't know what it is. It is so complicated when you're around an offensive line that's that weak. It's a struggle. They haven't been able to meld together the way they need to right now. Puka Williams leaves. They leave a little juice. Again, if you're Les Miles.
And they didn't have their top running back in this game either.
Les Miles, Daniel Hishaw, Hishaw I should have said, for Moore, Oklahoma. We've talked about Puka, and I said don't forget about Velton Gardner. Well, now they can start saying Daniel Hishaw is a very physical back, a guy who can get it done. He ran for 73 yards against Oklahoma. So there's some little pockets of freshman talent play that when you put a spotlight on him, if I were here and we had a video, Danny, and I could show you, I'd say, well, look how good this play is. And you can point out to a freshman.
Right.
But those little sparks of positiveness are not enough to win, and those sparks will go away when they're isolated. You need to become a tandem together. The connectivity, the ligament that pulls all those pieces together, where is it? And obviously it could be quarterback, but it's usually coaching, it's winning, it's esprit de corps, a program identity, it's a belief, and those are all things where Les Miles may be pushing buttons. But I would tell you the challenge for Les Miles is he is pushing buttons he's never had to push before, which is my biggest statement when he got here. He's a winning coach. At Oklahoma State, more relevant than LSU in my mind, okay?
Right.
But things when he started putting together worked at OSU. At KU, what you've got to find is that isn't going to work. You're looking at a whole different level below. You think, let's build a nice foundation. Well, no. You're on quicksand. You got to go take care of the dirt below before you can even start building the foundation. Does that make sense?
Right.
And Les Miles, I think, would never expect that. I mean, he's been at OSU and said they weren't perfect. Let's get to work. But at Kansas right now, they've lost for so long. You've got to build so many things before you can even get into that next step. And when you came from LSU, it is hard to everyone says he's an older guy. I'm telling you, Danny, we all get a little bit lax, I think. When you think about the house or the apartments that you lived in when you were young, when you were just out of college and you thought it was fine and great, if they put you that in there right now, Danny, you would go crazy. You would feel like you're in COVID jail, like you can't move. We just soften ourselves up,
Right.
And when you're at LSU, you are now at a place where you can be very soft and enjoy life. And you come back to Kansas, it's a whole different monster. So there's a lot of things going on right now. It's hard to predict where it's going to go. Will Jalen Daniels be part of the solution, or will he get run over by the wave of everything else going on? I don't know. That game did not help his traction, I guess.
Well, that's the story for this week, and obviously we've got less football next week. We're not going to have much football at all next week.
You and I are going to talk about that big putt on 17? Or,
I guess so. We'll
this is a big week, Danny, because I was just thinking about this over the weekend. When the Saints – we talk about a football weekend, okay, Danny? When the Saints just blew up or the Bucs didn't play well, I don't know, but I got stolen from on Sunday Night Football. So – I went complete Danny Klinkskill mode. I took my TV volume and said, boop, I'm turning down Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth because this is over. I could make it to the fourth quarter, Danny, but after that, I went over and said, maybe the Golf Channel's replaying the Houston Open. Why would I care about a golf tournament in November only because it's the week before the Masters. I'm trying to get excited, Danny, about the Masters. It's hard, but I actually went over and started watching Dustin Johnson. You know he's been dominant, so we might have to talk a little bit more about the golf next week. But this is the last. If I get this right in my head, I may not get this, but all this COVID-affected change in schedule is about ready to be ended. When the Masters is played, then we are back to what is left of a normal schedule. Right. High school, college, pro football, basketball, and NBA and college around the corner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But the NASCAR race, the championship was Sunday, so that's finished. And now when we get the Masters done, I think all the rollover, let's play it later, sports are done. So I don't know if I'm going to say forget it. I can't get into the Masters, but because they're playing early in the day and I love it so much, I am going to try to double up without the Chiefs playing and watch the NFL and something else. And that never happens until Sunday night, late at night, when the Bucs just totally laid down and got rolled over by the Saints. I actually watched the Houston Open with volume on,
wow.
A replay, and I didn't know who won.
Stan Weber. Well, we'll find interesting football things to talk about next week. That's for sure.
I hope you enjoy the Masters, Danny. I hope I do too. I don't know if I can. It's the wrong month, but
we'll see. It'll be different on another edition of Danny and Stan's Football Weekend.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com, specializing in expert healthcare guidance and assistance for you.